Texas A&M is looking to flip a 5-star quarterback.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about the baseball team and what I think their chances are to make it to Omaha. I've seen a lot of conversation about this over the last couple of days and why I think that these last two SEC series could really decide what happens and what happens with seeding. We're going to talk about the 2026 recruiting class as a whole. Where do the Aggies sit? Are they in a position to improve? Is it going to get better? Where are we going? What positions do we need to start landing in this 2026 class? But we're going to get things kicked off talking about a quarterback in the 2026 class that the Aggies are making a push after, and that is none other than Keisean Henderson. Henderson, the 6'3", 185-pound quarterback from Spring, Texas, currently committed to Houston. Quick little bio on him here from Gabe Brooks of 24/7 Sports. Says tall, wiry, athletic, multi-positional athlete who could play high major football, quarterback, receiver, or in the secondary. More speed builder than twitchy burner, which tested data supports. Plenty fast enough on the field for any of the aforementioned spots. Displays encouraging redirecting quickness and pads for a longer level build. Raw but talented as a passer, flashes impressive short to intermediate velocity, and has a lot of arm strength down the field. So, I mean, I like this kid a lot. I really do look at the film on Henderson and say to myself, that kid is going to be a stud football player. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. Like that scouting report said, and he's a guy that can play all over the field, and he has. He at once was listed as an athlete rather than a quarterback. And, of course, the Houston commit is getting attention from all over the place. And the reason being, on 24/7 Sports, he's listed as the 5th overall player in the class, number 2 quarterback, number 1 player in the state of Texas. In the composite rankings, he's the number 19 overall player, the number 5 quarterback, and the number 2 player in the great state of Texas. But, I mean, as it should be for a player like Henderson, the offer list: Bama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Auburn, Baylor, Cal, Florida State, Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, Pitt, San Diego State, TCU, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Washington. I mean, all of the big schools are after this elite quarterback prospect. And, you know, this is going to be a battle. If you ask me right now, I would lean toward him not ending up in Houston's recruiting class. So there's an article from Texas A&M Aggies on SI talking about titled Texas A&M looking to flip 5-star quarterback from Big 12 school. They go on to talk about with momentum building, Coach Elko and his staff have now set their sights on a quarterback spot targeting top-ranked signal-caller from Texas. 24/7 Sports recruiting analyst Tom Loy has identified Keisean Henderson as a potential top 100 flip candidate, with Texas and Texas A&M listed as the leading contenders to sway his commitment. You know, I think what's going to be interesting about this is the Aggies already have Helaman Kasuga committed at quarterback, but I've voiced this opinion. I talked about this when Brian Smith, I went on with Brian Smith, and that was one of my shows last week. I am not a huge fan of where the Texas A&M quarterback room currently sits. I mean, you got a couple more years of Marcel Reed, and that's assuming, you know, he's your guy. And obviously the transfer portal is a thing. You can always fix a room via the transfer portal if you feel like you need to. But I mean, We know Zeno's not the future. I mean, do we really think, Morcos or Hart or O'Neal are the future at quarterback for the Aggies? I just don't think so. And I think Kasuga is a player that is capable of being the kind of future quarterback, but you're in a spot right now where after losing Hassan Longstreet, of course, last go round, and yes, you do proceed to pick up a couple quarterbacks. You go get Brady Hart, a guy that, Brady Hart, I think is capable of being a good player, but I mean, is he a guy that I would want to bank my future on? I don't think so. And then, Eli Morcos is ranked as the 100th best quarterback in his class. So, like, these guys, you never know. We've seen crazier things happen, but I mean, they're not players you want to bank your future on. And then in the 2026 class, like I said, you've got Kasuga committed right now. And he's ranked, in the 24/7 sports rankings, he's listed as the 18th best quarterback. In the composite rankings, he's listed as the 16th best quarterback, as the 233rd best player in the class. But I mean, once again, Kasuga can be a good player. That's very realistic. Like, that could happen. All I'm saying is, if you could get Henderson, I'm taking Henderson right now. That's kind of what I wanted to get after with this conversation, is that, like, I think that you always want to go and get the best possible players. And, we have to look at it like this is a business. Yes, Kasuga's committed, and you have to also look at it like his teammate Miles, the 5-star freshman that's going to 5-star receiver, is a freshman this year. I don't think you're going to lose him if something happens. But I mean, if you were to flip Henderson from Houston, would Kasuga want to stick around and fight for a spot or find a new place to call home? I don't know. But at the end of the day, you always take the better player, or, that's the reality. And I'm not, watching film on both of these guys, I would take the upside of Henderson over Kasuga. I think wherever Kasuga goes, if let's say we get Henderson and Kasuga decides he's going to hit the road and go look for a new place to call home. I mean, obviously we're getting way, way ahead of ourselves here, but let's say that were to happen. If that were to happen, I think that he could go and be a very, very good. I think that he could go and be a great player. You know what I mean? That's my take. I think he's a good player. I think he could be a good player for Texas A&M if he ends up coming here. I'm just saying, if I'm the staff and I know that we need some help at the quarterback position in the future and what we've got right now, I'm always going to go after the best guy. And based on the film and the upside right now, I would take Henderson. I mean, we're way ahead of ourselves here. You know what I mean? This has to happen. But I think that it'd be great if Kasuga would stick around and fight for a spot, because I think that he's got a really high upside as well. I think that it's not quite as high as Henderson's, but it's there. So that's going to be interesting. But I mean, we all know recruiting's fluid. We all know how this works. It's really, interesting to see what's going to end up happening in this quarterback room, because it's a position Coach Klein, Coach Elko, and this coaching staff need to start focusing on. They need to start getting a plan for the future quarterback, because, like I said, my conversation with Brian Smith, the number one thing that we discussed was, like, man, when you really look at this Texas A&M quarterback room, if Marcel Reed doesn't end up being good, we're in serious problem. We are in trouble. So I think you need to go get some great players to really shore up that room. I mean, there's you look at all the other quarterback rooms in the SEC, and not all of them, most of them have great options, 2-3 guys deep. And I just feel like right now, I'm not sure if we have that. So you want to build this room up to be great in the future. And I think to do that, you have to have multiple options out there. So I want the coaching staff, whether it's going to get 2 quarterbacks, I am all for it. Staying on the trend of the 2026 recruiting class, I want to talk a little bit about our needs for this class. Positions that I think need to be hammered in the 2026 class. We'll talk about it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. I think this is a really great thing. I've my website that I write for, we've been working on, and and another podcast I do, I've been looking for some logos, and I found a person on Upwork to help me make logos for some of my different companies, and it's been really helpful. Great stuff. I highly recommend using Upwork. Visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Looking at this recruiting class, I think the number one focus needs to be the Biguglies on both sides of the football. Right now, when you take a gander at this 2026 Texas A&M recruiting class, when it comes to your big guys, you've got Jordan Carter, the edge rusher, 6'4", 235. But once again, he's not really a big guy. He's more of a pass rusher. Then you've got Moala, another edge rusher, 6'4", 225. Then you've got your defensive lineman in Jermaine Kinsler at 6'7", 260. That kid's going to be a stud. I'm really excited to see what ends up happening with him. But you don't have any offensive linemen committed. And honestly, all of your big guys, your beef, are mostly edge rushers that really aren't beefy guys. And then Kinsler, who's listed at 260. I mean, I think he's going to end up playing much heavier than that unless they convert him to an edge rusher. But looking at the future of both sides of the ball. I mean, I have my concerns for this season for Texas A&M when it comes to the big guys in the middle of defensive tackle. And I mean, you look at last year's class, I was pretty happy with what the staff brought in on the when it comes to the big uglies on both sides of the ball. I mean, Lamont Rogers is going to be a stud. Sims is going to be a stud. Sanders is going to be a stud. All of those defensive linemen are going to be really, really good. I think McGuire is going to be really good. Huge offensive lineman there. Newman, another guy that I think is pretty good once he puts on a little bit of weight there. Marcus Garcia is a high upside player. Landon Rink, I think, is going to be awesome. We've talked a lot about him on the show. Point being, I've been very impressed with what the staff did, bringing in really good recruits to play defensive line and offensive line in last year's class. But right now, offensive line, you're going to be losing I think there's a chance you lose your entire starting offensive line. Like, is that realistic? I think that is quite realistic. I think there's a world where you could lose your entire offensive line after this season, starting wise, depending on what happens. There's a chance of that. And yeah, you've gotten some great players 2 classes ago, last year's class. I believe you'll have a good offensive line in this year's class, but you're going to be replacing a lot of great players on that offensive line. And it's going to be something to monitor. Are the players on roster right now good enough? And then once again, you're not going to have very experienced guys. So this is a position they're going to have to continue to recruit well on the offensive line. No guys currently committed. A lot of offensive line visits coming up. We're going to talk about those throughout the week. But, looking at the defensive line in this class, I'm still waiting on those big guys, those big bruisers in the middle there. And I think that you're going to see that eventually. You're going to see them start to happen, I guess is what I'm saying. You're going to see some great players end up coming on the defensive line. I mean, you've got a defensive lineman coming on a visit On June. You've got, let's see, on June 20th, you've got an offensive tackle coming on a visit. In Drew Evers, another offensive tackle, and Aaron Thomas. You've got some serious guys. Then on June 13th, you've got a defensive lineman, Lamar Brown, coming on a visit. You've got Avery Morcho, an offensive tackle, coming on the visit. You've got a lot of. So I guess what I'm getting at here is I'm not concerned about recruiting the big uglies in this class. We're going to get them. That's just something that we need to knock out of the ballpark in this class. I think that you need big guys there on both sides of the ball. I think we're in a pretty good spot for the future when it comes to, running back for the 2 freshmen this year. And I think we're in a pretty good spot at receiver for the future. I like our secondary pieces. I think we're going to have an elite secondary down the road, thanks to the young guys that we've brought in over the last handful of classes that are going to slowly work into the starting lineup. I think we're in good spots there. So that's what I'm focusing on, ladies and gentlemen. It truly is. I just want to see, the additions. I mean, right now in this class, you've got a corner and Victor Singleton, who's going to be a stud, great flip. We recently got him. Jordan Carter, just talked about him. I think he's going to be a great player. Jonathan Hatton Jr., the running back. I like him. 6'1.5", 205 pounds, bruiser, run through you. Kid's going to be a stud. The receiver, Aaron Gregory. Sounds like Texas is making a push after him, so we're going to have to find a way to hold on there. Then Samuel Moala, the edge rusher, another kid that's going to be good coming off the edge, and I think he'll get a lot of sacks in his career. Madden Williams, the receiver. Jermaine Kinsler, the defensive lineman. Caleb Tafua, the tight end, 6'4", 215. That kid's going to be a great tight end. They are playing alongside Cody Armstrong. Hellman Kasuga, the quarterback we just got done talking about. Storm Miller, the linebacker. And Mike Brown, the wide receiver. I think this class is in a good spot. You got your tight end, you got some running backs, you got some receivers, you got a quarterback. Offensively, we're looking good. We just need some linemen. And then you're going to have to go get some players in the secondary to go along with Singleton, a couple linebackers, and a few more big defensive linemen. I think that that's going to be really what wraps up this recruiting class for Texas A&M. I mean, right now we're sitting with what? How many total players? Is that 11 players? I think it's going to end up, how many do we have in last year's class? Total 24, 25 total guys if you add Miles. I think, we're going to be in that 20 to 25 range again this year. So, there's still about 15 players-ish, 10 to 15 players to go. And that's not even, you still got to hold on to some players, obviously, that are currently committed. So a lot left to go in recruiting. And as we all know, June, July are these massive recruiting months. This is going to be when you're getting a big chunk of your recruits. So recruiting is going to heat up, and it's going to be fun to monitor because I think the staff is going to put together a very, very good 2026 class over at Texas A&M. The baseball team is still fighting for their lives when it comes to the postseason and trying to get the best seed possible. We're going to talk about what has to happen over these last few days or the last few weeks of the season to set up Texas A&M in a great spot to make a run in the postseason. And we'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. A lot of fun stuff to bet on right now at the NBA playoffs. The MLB is obviously in full swing as well. You can bet on all of your baseball needs. A lot of good stuff going on right now. And football will be back soon. Promise when it comes to, and I love betting on FanDuel for every sport, but obviously football is my favorite. NBA playoffs, I'm going to get more into it and hit some bets there as well. So head on over and check out FanDuel. New to FanDuel? It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA, and of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. So the baseball team is fighting the good fight right now, ladies and gentlemen, and we've talked about it. They're sitting currently with a record of 10-14 in SEC play, 27-20 overall. And this weekend against Missouri is going to be crucial. Absolutely crucial. The Houston game that was supposed to be yesterday, of course, got canceled. They were actually going to, Houston was going to wear some really cool uniforms. I would like to have seen that. And that wasn't an RPI cancel, a road game against a team. I actually think that would have been a bit helpful for our RPI. So I don't, I mean, once again, the weather was terrible. We all know that. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it was like we're trying to get out of that game. So now, of course, comes up the series against Missouri at home. You got 2 series left. You host Missouri, and then you go to Georgia. So you got 6 games left. You're sitting at 10-14. I think that sweeping Georgia or sweeping Missouri would be crucial. Now, I would generally say it's never easy to predict a sweep. It's never easy to sweep a team in general. Missouri has not won a baseball game. And I really am trying to, like, for those that aren't huge baseball fans like myself, I'm trying to reiterate how insane that is. Baseball is not like basketball or football where, like, a blind squirrel will find a nut here and there, right? Baseball, every team should win some games. I mean, every single, and you should not be losing this many conference games in baseball. It's truly absurd. But there's a reason. You pull up the stats among the SEC, they're in the bottom of pretty much every category: hitting, pitching, and fielding. So they're bad. And I mean, you have to win this series. Have to win it. Sweeping it would be huge. I think if you sweep this series, I've talked about Florida last year, got into the tournament, made it all the way to Omaha with 13 SEC wins. If you sweep this weekend, that locks you up 13 wins. Then if you just go win one game against Georgia in Athens, who's one of the best teams in college baseball, you sit with a 14-16 record. I think that puts you in a pretty good spot to be a 3 seed. If you somehow go 5-1 in your last 6 games, I think at 15-15, you have an outside chance, I'd say, to be a 2 seed. But what I want to say, and this is the point I like to reiterate, is as long as this team gets to the postseason, they are capable of making it to Omaha. And that's the same case for every single SEC team. SEC baseball is next level stuff. It's basically AAA. I mean, if these teams can get to the postseason, because that's a problem, they beat each other up. You know what I mean? I mean, there's teams that aren't going to make the postseason. Like Kentucky's a great example. I think they're one of the SEC teams listed in that first few out right now. They went to Omaha last year, and they are a team that if they got in the right regional and super, they could do it again. But they're not going to have a chance to do that because of how good the SEC is and how tough this is. So if Texas A&M can just get to the postseason, yes, they have a legitimate chance to make a run to Omaha. It's not going to be easy. You're probably going to be on the road the whole time, but you're going to have a chance, and that's all this team could have asked for based on how SEC play and the whole season started for Michael Early in this Texas A&M baseball team. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate it. Hope y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.